Welcome back to Close Up. House Democrats are looking to bounce back from this last session and return to power in Concord. At the moment, the contrast could not be more stark between the two parties on several issues. Here this morning to discuss that and more is Representative Mary Jane Wallner, who is now serving her 4th decade in the New Hampshire House. Thanks for joining us, Representative.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for inviting me here today. And also, I want to thank you very much for letting me do this on Zoom. I have a family member who had surgery, and I need to be close to home.
All right, we certainly appreciate that. So, energy costs. Everyone doing a double take at the rate increases being filed this last week. If Democrats are back in power, what's the plan to deal with that in 2023?
Well, I mean, I think everyone was taken by surprise yesterday when we heard these large increases in electric costs. And I know families in New Hampshire are facing increases in their gasoline prices, and at the grocery stores. I don't know how. I really wonder sometimes how young families are able to be able to keep up with the cost of grocery shopping. And so I think that we'll look at ways to be more energy efficient, obviously, but also new technology. I this week got an opportunity to go to Rhode Island to see the Block Island wind farm. And all of the electricity on Block Island now is being provided by 5 windmills that are out into the ocean. This is something New England needs to really be working on. And it won't solve the problem overnight, but we've got to start now looking at ways to generate electricity and to not be so dependent on what happens in the rest of the world, which then ends up causing our economy to suffer.
It's complicated, though, right? That transition to green energy, the costs often go up before they can go down. We see that in other New England states. Isn't the clearest path to lowering costs increasing the supply of the energy sources we rely on right now?
Well, I think that obviously that's one way to do it, but we've got to look out, and I think we really have to look out into the future. And we need to partner with our region. We need to partner with Maine and Massachusetts, especially when we're looking at, when I heard what Maine and Massachusetts are already doing around wind energy. I think we have to be a good partner there and take advantage of everything that's going on in our region.
So House Majority Leader Jason Osborne recently proposed yearly age-appropriate firearms training in school at every grade level. Those are his words. What's your response to that?
Well, I find it to be a very inappropriate response. There are a number of things we need to do around gun violence prevention, and training young children on the handling of firearms is certainly not one of them. And when we were in the majority, when the Democrats were in the majority last 2 years ago, we passed a number of very common sense gun violence prevention pieces of legislation. We passed a red flag law. We passed a waiting period law. We passed a bill that would have closed the background check loophole, and a bill that would have prevented guns on public school grounds. Governor Sununu vetoed every one of those bills. Now, those would have made a big difference in New Hampshire. We would really be starting to address this issue here in New Hampshire if those pieces of legislation were in place. I think that what the public want, and what I hear from my voters, and I hear from people in my areas, they want common sense gun laws. And that includes people who are gun owners. And I have not heard anyone talking about training young children in how to handle a firearm. I think that was a completely inappropriate response.
Representative, if Democrats regain the majority, will you be moving quickly to repeal the late-term abortion ban that was passed in this last session?
I'm not sure how we'll proceed on that. But I will tell you that Democrats do not believe that restrictions on abortion are really the response, really what government should be doing. I think most people want the decision around abortion to be between the person and their doctor, and that government really has no place in making that decision. And I think that's the view held by most Democrats. There's a lot of moving parts at this point around the abortion laws. Obviously, we're waiting to hear what the Supreme Court is going to do with Roe v. Wade. But I think that in the upcoming session, we would definitely be looking at rolling that back.
Got about a minute left here, Representative. What is the pitch to voters in the fall to get them to elect Democrats? This is going to be a tough year, it looks like, for the Democratic Party, but how do you win those voters over?
Well, I think what Democrats are really, we're good at listening to the voters, and that is what we're going to do in this election. I want to hear from my constituents. I want to hear what their priorities are. I want to hear what they want me as their state representative to do. And I don't think that the voters in New Hampshire really want a legislature that passes pieces of legislation that don't address the real problems. And I'm thinking right now about education. The real problem wasn't that New Hampshire needed a voucher program. The real problem was New Hampshire needed to fund public education appropriately. And that's what the Democrats tried to do when we were in the majority. And those are the kinds of things I think we will move forward on. We're listening to the public and want to hear what the public wants from us.
All right, Representative Wallner, thank you so much for your time on Close Up, and we wish a speedy recovery for your family member.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.